Hi, welcome to Joy Phido International. My name is Joy Phido, and today we're bringing you again something really amazing. Now, you know, we have so many skills, so we tend to make what we do really versatile. We don't want to bore you with just the one topic. So from time to time, we talk to you on personal development, which is what today is all about. We talk to you on how to care for your hair, which we have so many responses, people thanking us for empowering them with skills that make them understand their own hair. We talk to you on the business side, encouraging you to put skills in your hands so you can grow your own thing and become your own person. And then we talk about fashion, and there's so much to talk about. We just have so many talents and we love to share them with you. But today, like I said, we're going to be dealing with personal development, which is something, again, I have made it my business to understand how we are being programmed in life to achieve success. And so many of us may have all the major things we're looking for. Some people might have lots of money, but they don't know how to use it. Some people might have lots of skill, don't know how to share it or how to turn it into a business. And some people may have all the fantastic ideas and don't know how to pull it out and make something out of it. So personal development is an area where you need to start coordinating your thoughts with the actions that you're taking on. And suddenly everything changes. So today, another amazing topic that came to my head, and I thought it would be nice to share with you. So welcome on board, and we're going to dig deep into it right now. So the topic of today is really interesting, and it's called "We Are Programmed to Fail." And I'll repeat it again, we are programmed to fail. So this is something that's taken me years to put together. I've always wanted to know what is going on. Why is that we put in so much effort? Lots of us are putting in so much effort, hoping that one day the struggle will calm down and then something great will happen, and then you see the result of all this effort you put in. But apparently it's not you. You're not the problem. The society we live in has so many things hidden in them that basically tends to stop you, tends to break your spirit, tends to make you not understand what's going on. And you find some people just carry on for years and get nowhere too soon. So I'm going to expose to you or share with you some of the seven major things I've picked out on that I know are really like stumbling blocks standing on the way and not allowing you to achieve that you keep dreaming about. But my kind of person is knowledge is power. And once you have knowledge, you can then know how to walk around that thing so you then overcome it. So while the topic may sound so damn big, we are programmed to fail, great things are going to come out of it. In the sense of once you know what these hurdles are, you're going to start walking yourself in order to overcome them so that success you've been hoping for will finally happen. So here we go. So again, our society has created things within it that does not help us really. Most of the things are aimed at distracting us, destabilizing us, and not helping us to really achieve those dreams you are dreaming about. But one thing I want you to start putting straight on in your head right now is our Creator, how we came to be here, had amazing designs for us, created amazing things for us to use to achieve greatness. We were actually born for greatness, all of us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we were made for greatness. And I read somewhere where someone said, even before our parents put us together in the form of, okay, your mom is pregnant with you, there was a reason your Creator had you in there. So we all have a purpose in life. But unfortunately, the society we then find ourselves in does not really support those purposes that we're created for. And like I said, once we start looking at these hurdles that are standing on our way, we're going to be able to overcome them and then move on. So one of the first ones that I have really taken my time to understand is the education system we live in. So that's number one, the education system. Remember, I'm saying we have 7 things that are major things standing on our way. Number one is the education system. Why do I have issues with our education system? Now, first of all, how long do we take to go to school? Have you ever considered how many years you are in school for? Now, you spend all that time going to school, and this came to my attention only recently. My children are complaining, Mom, but must I really go to school? I don't like school. And all the time you see young children, most times they have issues with their teachers, they have issues with the topics they're taught in school. They have so many things going on around them, and they're getting really frustrated. But what became very clear is, how long are we supposed to be in school for? So you spend, I don't know the system you live in, but the system I live in, from the age of 3 or 4, you started going to school. You start with a play group, and then you go kindergarten, and then you carry on, and then you go through the primary school of 6 years, and then you go through the secondary school of another 6 years or 5 years, and then you carry on, you go to university 4 years, 5 years, and it just goes on and on and on. Half of your basic teenage life is in school. And then when you finish all of that, what then happens? You go, what have you studied in school? You end up with no job. And that's what society is giving us right now. There are no jobs waiting for you after all these years in school. And you would have automatically thought, okay, I've been to school, so I've gone to learn something. So by now, school, you got all this academic education for all these years. Most times it's focused on English and maths. And I'm excluding maybe the Chinese people, maybe people from other countries where English is not really their main topic. But then they have their languages which they also have to learn. So we're going to school to learn how to speak English. Or we're going to school to learn how to art. And most times I say to people, especially the people I get to work with the practical things I do, I don't need to communicate in English with you. There's so many ways I can communicate with you. And if I have to learn how to add 2 + 2, 4 + 4, there's something they call a calculator. Why do I have to spend all these years going to school just to learn English and maths and how to speak it in the right format? And I get people watching me on YouTube and they say to me, oh, you have an accent. What does my accent got to do with the message I'm trying to communicate with you? So these are the issues that is disturbing our society. So now we're being made to be dependent on people because we finish on our education and then we have to look for a job. Why can we not create our own job? Why is it that the system we have been put through has not equipped us enough such that we finish the school and we set up our own businesses? So you find things like anything to do with trade. They call those menial jobs. My daughter, who's, according to the system, quite intelligent because she can read and write and she can add things up in seconds, I said to her, could you add hairdressing to your course in school? And her teacher said to her, no, you're too intelligent for hairdressing. Something that's going to empower her with a skill in her hands. She's told she's too intelligent. And suddenly the society we live in makes us think that because we can add and we can read and we're so quick to make decisions in those areas, we're too intelligent to do jobs that can equip our hands with skills such that by the time we come out of school, we are going to be able to create a business for ourselves. No, they don't see something that gives you the ability to stand on your own as good enough. They tell you to do things that will make you completely dependent on them. Because when you become this lawyer or you become this, I don't know what else, political scientist, economics, you name, the abstract sciences or whatever they call them, you're going to be depending on someone to give you a job. But if you were to do something that's physical, that becomes you, that allows you to think, that makes you have an idea of what you're thinking of doing, you will be independent and you will be able to stand on your own. So that's the society we live in, completely dependent. So while we're still talking about dependence, something interesting I read the other day, you keep hearing me referring to things I read, and someone said we live up to the age of 25. This is just generally on all of us, and I can relate to that. We live up to the age of 25, and then we die and get buried at 65. This is just, basic numbers. So what I can relate to that is, you're excited as a teenager, you're going to all this school, you've been promised things in your head. When I finish, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. You're dreaming things. I'll get a fantastic job in the city, working for this great company, and then they'll make me maybe the financial controller or the business partner, whatever it is that you're dreaming of. And so you have these great ideas in your head, and then when you finish, you then start looking for work. You're still carrying on, you're still young, and you start looking for work. You start writing the CVs, you start sending applications, you start getting replies, and then they start telling you things like your CV is not good enough, or someone else who was in a better position got the job, or the brother of the owner of the company, or the sister, or the daughter, the great-granddaughter, and suddenly all your little exciting dreams are beginning to disappear. Suddenly you're beginning to get frustrated. And I know of one of my friends whose son went to study something really, really academic in university and spent all that years, and when he came back and there were no jobs, he sat with his mom and he was like, "Mom, why did you not tell me what I was going to see at the end of all of this struggling?" And so this is what happens. At that stage, what happens, you're mentally dead. Your spirit starts to break. And that's what it is. They start breaking you in pieces, because suddenly all those amazing, exciting dreams you had as a child is beginning to disappear. You don't trust anyone anymore. And that's when you now die. You die because your soul has suddenly given up. Your spirit has disappeared. And then lots of us then just walk through the surface of the earth, and you just carry on for the rest of your life, depending on how many years there are that you think you may live for, or you may find that you're just carrying on up to the age of 80, sometimes up to the age of 70. But what's actually happened is that time you were so excited about things has disappeared. Age of 25, you've lost it all. And so that's the kind of society we live in. Why have we been put in that position where we cannot be excited all the way through? Why can we not come out with something, a job that we can now become our own boss? Because I studied catering, I can now go and set up my food business. Or because I learned how to lay bricks, I can now start building houses. Or because I learned how to become a plumber, I can now go to people's houses and connect their pipes and make their water tap, whatever happen. Why can we not be put in that position? Why is society not encouraging us to take on skills that will turn into something when we are ready, than for us to be putting knowledge in our head, and at the end of it all, they tell us your CV is not good enough, or you haven't written your application letter properly, or we had 10,000 people apply for a job of 20 people. This is where the problem is. So the sooner we know that we're dealing with a system like this, a society like this, the sooner we're going to guide our children and start pointing them in the right direction. If they're thinking of taking on courses that we know we had been through as well and it did not pay us, why are we encouraging them to do that? So the sooner you start thinking and snapping out of whatever it is that you may have at the time you were ignorant, taking on things that you knew nothing about. Now I'm making you aware of these things. The education system we live in is not for your own good. So the sooner you start empowering yourself with the right skills and start using it for your own purpose, the better you will be. Okay, so we're still talking about dependence and time in school. This one is focused on how do we use our brain. And this is where I explained to you that our Creator had amazing plans for us before He even created us. Why do I know this? Because all of us are unique. Every human being is unique. Even in your family, look at your children, look at your brothers, look at your sisters. They all stood out in different ways. Now, this is what our Creator put in us. And this is that unique DNA that we each have. There are things you love doing that I have no idea what they are. There are things I love to do, you have no idea what they are. So this is where you need to start tapping into yourself. And when you start reading more into this, you then get to find out there's something they call left brain and right brain. And I've written quite a bit on this topic, left brain and right brain. Right brain is the creative side of us, and the left brain is the academic part of us. Now, when we go to all these schools and, going through the primary school and the secondary school and the university, most of the time what they're appealing to is your left brain. And that's why I said society is programming us for failure. They're programming you to concentrate on reading and writing and all of that. No one's really sitting down there to encourage you and empower you to use your creative side, which is your right brain. So right brain allows you to start looking at things in a creative way. You see a hairstyle and you say, oh my goodness, I love that hairstyle. I would like to recreate how that was done. You see someone who is an artist and they're drawing things on the wall and you look at it and say, this is beautiful. You see people who look at fashion and they create amazing clothes and you go, how did they achieve that? Or people who manufacture shoes. All of these people are using their creative side. And so we need to start tapping into our right brain. So if you want to help yourself and start reading a bit more about some of these things, it will also help you to understand a bit more, like I have done. So start looking into your right brain, start wondering what that unique creativity that you have, and start working on them. Because when you use your right brain, what you find is you will not be looking for anyone to give you a job. You're going to end up creating your own job. And in as much as the academic side may be necessary, because you still want to be able to write your name and sign your signature and speak whatever language that is known in the country where you belong, you still want to be able to finish all of that and offer something that's only in your hands. Because like I say to people, you can create a business that is you. Like the business I have now, wherever I go, I can use my skill. I don't need to carry any luggage. I walk into a place, give me a comb, give me hair extension, or give me a head. I can design things on that person's head. That's the kind of quality you want from yourself. You want to be able to walk around and feel good about yourself without being dependent on someone to please give me a job where I sit in your office and pick up the phone and say, hello, who's on the line? That's not what you were designed for. You were designed for great things. And that's where I want you to start looking into your hands and find those unique things that makes you stand out. And you see people who love dancing, and you see people who like singing. So there's so much the right brain offers, which our society is deliberately sitting on and putting us in a box so we be like everyone else. And then when you finish and you look for the job, then they tell you there's no job. That is deliberately designed to break you. Okay, so the next issue we'll deal with, the next hurdle we have to face, is the health system in our society. So why is that a problem? Now, we are as healthy, or our health is dependent on the food we eat. We're as healthy as what we eat. Now, if we are living in a society that all we have to face and deal with, again for financial reasons, are just foods that are so not healthy for us. Food that's been manufactured so much and all the natural ingredients taken out of it. Completely plastic and synthetic foods. What all these foods do is they come into our system and destroy us. That's what they do. So you hear all types of illnesses, cancer, diabetes, tuberculosis, high blood pressure, stroke. And you wondering, because the society makes it look like, oh, this is something you got from your parents. It's a genetic illness. It's something that was meant to be. And then we're being chased to go and meet the doctor. Do you know what goes on there? Now, this is a very interesting one. The people who are manufacturing these foods are getting rich because you are busy buying their rubbish, synthetic foods, you're putting it all in your system, so they get rich from the money you give them. Now the doctor is sitting down there and waiting for you to come as well. And you know what they've done? They've created drugs for all of this. Sometimes they're using you just to test out these drugs to see if it's going to work or not. And they don't care if you live or you don't live. They just need someone to test drugs on. And you happen to be walking down the road to meet them. Hello, I don't feel well. Okay, sit down here, drink this. And this just carries on in so many ways. So your health is not good. Why is your health not good? Because we've thrown all this in. What do they then do? They affect your body. What do you suffer from? Obesity is one of the first one. After obesity, then what happens next? Your brain is affected. Because you remember we said we were created with a brain that will help us walk. Now, if you have infected your body with unnecessary food and toxic materials, what does it do? It affects your brain as well. So you can't think anymore. And you see people midday, they sit in a chair and they sleep off. Their brain is dead. You remember the same issue about you're walking from the age of 25 to 65 and then you finally get buried. That's what it is. Because your system, your body has been put in a condition where it cannot function anymore. And what has caused that? The foods we put into our body. And this is worse, especially in the Western world, where practically every food you put in, I have done a bit of research on this, every food we're putting in is mostly synthetic in so many different forms. And what pushed me again in this direction was when I started looking at people who are having hair loss issues. Now, because your body is not functioning well, the last thing the body is going to take care of is your hair. And I hear people saying they want to take this pill and take that pill. You're just throwing in more toxins into your body in order to make your hair grow, or make your skin clear, or make your face look young. You want to look young again, and so you go and buy all the different types of synthesized creams and you rub on your skin and you say that's going to make me look youthful and young again. All of these are aimed at destroying you, because for as long as these things are not natural things, they're not natural ingredients, they were not made with you in mind, with the health of your body in mind. They were made just to enrich a few people. And reality is, for the whole 7 billion people in the world, only about 5% of these 7 billion are extremely rich. But what happens? The money they have is more than the remaining 95% of us. And how do you think this is working? They're using us. Simple. So if you can learn to understand that some of the things that are going on around you are things you cannot control, then you will look at ways to be able to control things for yourself. Okay, so the next one, we've said education, we've said health. The third one is financial system. Now, this is another amazing topic that I like to really drag out and out with anyone who wants to listen. It's all about money. Money, money, money. Money makes the world go round. So you might have the most amazing ideas in your head and you have no idea how to finance it. You may love to live in the best neighborhood, but you haven't got the money to cover it. You may love to eat healthy. We've just talked about food. You walk into a shop designed for healthy foods and you cannot afford it. I have seen this. I love to eat nuts. I love to eat vegetable. But you walk into the shop and suddenly the donuts is like 20 for a pound, and then you want to buy apples, for instance, and it's like 2 for a pound. And anyone who's short of money knows the best thing to do at that stage. Well, the donuts will fill me up, so I might as well just buy 20 donuts instead of 2 apples. We know how to be healthy sometimes, but we can't help the situation that we find ourselves in. And it all comes down to money. And the weirdest thing is, You might have the most fantastic business plan. I have seen this with my very own eyes. I had a friend who did her master's and specialized in writing business plans, and she'd written this amazing business plan, and she took it to the bank and they turned her down. That's the society we live in. They always try their best to break your spirit. And she said she was sitting, and then someone else came in there with 20 credit cards, owing on all the cards, and this person was still giving money to go and run a business and cause the bank more havoc. So you want to do something amazing. This is where sometimes the racism issue comes in. So you're black, for instance, in the society we live in, and you walk into the bank and you say you got amazing business plan, you want to set up your business, and then they turn you down, and the next man who's white walks in there with very flimsy information, and here you go, take this loan and go and set up. I don't want anyone to tell me anything about there is no racism or we're trying to cut it down. It does exist. And this is where it becomes very clear again. Because when you don't have money, you might have the greatest ideas and it will not fly off a window because you haven't got the money to help yourself. Yes, I know, for instance, black community, we have our issues where even when we can help ourselves, we tend to not help ourselves. But I know 3/4 of the time is not on you, it's the system you live in. So you have people looking at your color instead of what you can do. So when are you going to be able to make the kind of money that you can afford the things you dream of affording? You want your children to go to the best schools, it comes down to money. You want to travel to a very good location for your holiday, it comes down to money. You want to maybe go on a plane and sit in a better compartment of the plane, it's a lot of money. You want to buy healthy foods, it's a lot of money. You want to live in a good neighborhood where there are no fightings and stabbing and shooting going on, it's a lot of money. So they segregate you based on money. And yes, you will hear segregation. Nothing segregates bigger than lack of money, because you might been to, it comes down to morals. You might have been going to church and your church is preaching good things into your ears, and you say, I'm going to live a beautiful life, I would like to do this and I like to do that. But the reality is you have not got the money to do it. How do you overcome that? How do you jump over the hurdle? So again, this is where we're encouraging you to focus on the skills in your hands. Because like I did in this business, it was my children's little savings I used in going for my training to get my knowledge intact. And that's how I started. And that's why I'm happy to help people look into their hands instead of looking around them and thinking that society cares for you. The society you live in, I know about the West, and I also know about living in African societies. No one really cares about your growth. People are so ingrained in their own individual issues, which I understand too, because we are all individuals. But if you're looking at somebody else to push and propel your growth, you have to think again. So it's time for you to start looking into your hands and see how you can contribute to the neighborhood, to the society you live in. What can I do that people want? So basically, the society you live in is not your friend if you have not got the money to cover their needs. So that's all we're saying. And how do you get to that point where you have enough money, you can provide for yourself the things you require? The healthy foods, the lovely holidays, the good neighborhood, the best schools for your children, the best clothes, designer clothes, lovely shoes, lovely handbags, lovely perfumes, lovely education. So all of this comes down to the money in your pocket. And if you have not got it, do you see where we're coming from? You're basically designed to fail. So it's down to you to aim for this. Is one of the things I say to my children. First, think how you're going to make the money. Don't focus on how to spend money. It's one of those things that I keep telling people. No one teaches you in schools on how to make money. They just teach you understand history, understand biology, understand chemistry. No one's made it their business to say, you know what, if you spend all your money, you're gonna be broke. You're not gonna have any money to buy the things you want. And especially with the children, it's so scary that, because I have children, so I have to talk about what I experience with my kids. They're given money, they're told, go and buy this, go and buy that. But no one's saying to them, if you spend all your money buying ridiculous things, and you will find your kids have different unique needs. Some of them love the expensive shoes, and some of them love the expensive handbags. And I say to them, but do you have enough money coming in to cover the handbag? If you buy the one bag, is that it? You're not going to ever buy another bag again? Or would you organize your money in such a way that you could have a consistent flow of when you want a bag, you know when to get a bag, or a shoe, or a perfume? So that's how it works. We need to understand first how to make money. Create money first. Then you can go buying the designer things. Then you can go and buying the fantastic holidays and the amazing houses to live in. Because the funniest thing that's happening right now in England, we have a society, a government telling us they're going to let people have 100% mortgage. So you don't have to put any money down. But because you work in a good place, oh yeah, they've looked at your records, you don't owe anyone, fine. You can come get a mortgage from a bank because the government is sponsoring whatever it is. But has anyone ever taken their time to think about it? So what about when I lose that job? If I do lose that job, which is very, very normal today. There is no job guarantee for life anymore. In those days, people could work for 30 years, 25 years, 40 years in one place, and you know exactly how much you're going to be paid for the next 50 years, no problem. But you could be like me and lose your job. And when you've lost your job, then what happens? Then there goes the mortgage. Then all the money you would have worked for goes with the building, with the property, to the bank. Then there goes all your fantastic cars you were driving in. There goes all the amazing designer clothes you were buying. So this is where you have to think first on how to create money. And there's a little book that I read that really made that story very clear. It said, "Who Moved My Cheese?" It's a tiny little book. Type that into Google and read for yourself. Because what will happen is you start creating, you start planning ahead of everyone around you so you can stay consistent and avoid these hurdles on the way. Laws. Law, L-A-W-S, laws. That is a killer. And that is the society we live in. It is one of the biggest hurdles that can break you in seconds. Now, the funny thing I find with law is, ideally, laws were meant to be there to protect you, right? Right. Unfortunately, most laws are put in place to destroy you. Most laws. And this is especially for us here in the West. That's what I found. Because, like I said, I've lived in Africa. I've lived in what you would call the underdeveloped world. And then I've lived in the developed world. And the big difference between both is the laws. But where are these laws coming in to support us? Most times, the laws are put in place to destroy the small person, the tiniest person. There was a time we were reading about all these big conglomerates, the big businesses, the Googles of this world, the Barclays banks of this world. And it was turning out that these people can do so much. They hide their profit, they do things nobody knows, and no one cares because they have so much money to pay off anyone. And then you, the tiny man, you want to set up anything, and the law will hold you down. This is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to do. So how come there are two sets of laws? One law for the small man and another law for the big man. And the big man knows exactly how to. We're going to come to that one when we look at the taxes. But let's look at the laws first. So what are some of those laws that can really cripple you? You get things like insurance is another one I love to look at. While it's good to insure everything, which you practically have to insure everything, most of the time you're never going to call up on that insurance. What's happening? All the money you have been paying towards all of that has gone. Why? Because you have to feed the system, you have to keep the system flowing. And another very exciting one I found out recently. So I went to a workshop to understand how to empower my students across the world with what they call franchising. Franchising is when you repeat a business in the same format it's been done in another country, tried and tested, so it's proved that it works. So we want to recreate the same thing in different parts of the world. It would have been a fantastic way to help people so they can set up similar in different parts of the world. But what did we find out? To get into such a thing, you're looking at thousands of pounds to set up a franchise. And the weirdest part of it was someone did ask the man and said, so what if I decide to create my own, rules of how my franchise should operate? He says, yes, nothing is stopping you. But there is a body that oversees all the franchises. And you will never belong to that body, because they don't recognize you. This is the same thing across board. It's the same across so many things. Like I said to people going to cosmetology schools, this is what it is. It's not because you're going to gain this amazing skill. It's because there is a set law that has ruled and governed this way of doing things. And so if you don't belong to that body, you will not be recognized. And that's what it is. So these laws are put in place not necessarily to empower your growth. I mean, when they started chasing and attacking the braiders and saying, you don't belong to cosmetology. The braiders were like, I go to cosmetology school and I don't learn anything to do with braiding. Why should I go there? No, what they were trying to do is protect. They want to make sure that you are not going to go touching hair, because there's a body that says touch hair here, and you have to belong to that body. But for you to belong to that body, you have to go through 2 years of training, and then you have to pay X amount of money to this body, and that's how the system flows. So they just want to keep their system flowing. It's absolutely nothing to do with you. And you finish, and I say to these same students, you went to study this cosmetology, who are your clients? Because you end up dealing with clients that have no problem, no relationship with what you want to offer them. And you could set up a shop on their street and no one walks in because they want to go to their friend, their family, the lady across the road who is the same color and the same race as them. And so you have gone studying your cosmetology for no one, because the people who really want to come and use your service are not asking for their hair to be cut for starters or colored for starters. They want their hair to be braided or put in a weave. And you have gone to study something that has absolutely nothing to do with that. That is what laws are made for. And I read a book once, Madam C.J. Walker, on her own grounds. And when she set up, centuries ago, when she set up and was empowering black women to go and, work with natural hair, work with black hair, and they were able to leave all the cleaning job they were doing at the time to set up their hair businesses. You know what they did? Because these women were no longer cleaning these homes, their husbands turned around and created laws to deal with them. And the laws were forcing them to pay higher taxes, which is the next topic, so that because they have to pay so much tax, they had to leave their businesses and go back to cleaning. So do you see how laws work? And then whatever it is could happen to you, and you say, okay, I'm going to get my solicitor involved. When you get solicitors, that's even a worst case scenario, because what do? You end up enriching the solicitor. All you're doing is paying solicitor, and you know what happens? The better man wins, the one who could argue his case better than you or than your lawyer. And then most of the time, if you dare say you want to take on the government, forget it. That's when you're not being, if they don't kill you in the process, if they find you got something really amazing that you're going to incriminate them, they put an end to you. If they don't put an end to you, they're going to make sure they find a way to destroy you. There's so many movies that talk about these kind of things. So when you're looking at the system, start understanding how it works. It is not there to protect you. Most times it's there to completely destroy you. And if you're a small little person who have no clue what you're dealing with, you will get destroyed just like that. So taxes is number 5. Tax, as in taxes. Taxes that bill that the government throws on you in so many different ways. So you keep a system going. And again, comparing between the underdeveloped world and the developed world. Underdeveloped world, they don't make a big deal about taxes. Why? Because there's still money in the system that the government can use in running its affairs. And so by the time they're even thinking about you, the ordinary man, oh yeah, have you paid your income tax? And okay, yes, some councils may stress you a bit and say, if you want to operate a business, you have to pay tax. So taxes, they look at different ways they're going to, take all the money off you. And the interesting one I discovered recently, I was watching a documentary on TV. Here in the UK, we have 150 different tax from the government. They tax you for buying food, they tax you for buying clothes, they tax you, they call it value added tax, VAT, then they tax you for importing anything, then they tax you for having money in your bank, they tax you for bringing money out, they tax you for buying drinks, buying anything, you get taxed. That's not talking about when you open a shop and you get the council that you work with is going to tax you. They call it a business rate. And then they tax you for living in a home council tax. And then you get taxed for your salary, income tax. And then you get taxed. It's like you can't even survive. And most times I ask people, why is one human being being put in this position? Because what do they really want from you? It's like all they're after, I say to people, is your energy. That's all they're after. They want to just use you and use you and use you to the point where you can't even get up again. Because if they're taxing your school uniform, your children's school uniform, they're taxing the food the children eat in school, they're taxing their school trip, they're taxing. All of that is aimed at you going to work some more. And so you work so hard and you come and you pay the tax. You work and you pay the tax. You work and then you take on three, 4 jobs. And I remember my pastor used to make fun of me and say, you take 4 jobs to do one life, to live one life. How do you do that? Because the whole idea is to break you. So the more you're working and working, or you get to a point you're so tired. Before you even get to the age of 50, you're weakened. You can't even get up anymore. And then we complain that people are sick because the stress in the system is so much. You can't function at all. And this is a major part of the hurdle you have to live with. And the weirdest one, I say to people, I started my business from home. And we, set up a room for dealing with hair. We set up another room for training people. And I was fine. I didn't have any issues. Now, I took on the responsibility to move the business further out from the home to different parts of, set up in a business place. And everything changed. The telephone had to be business rate. The emails had to be business rate. Then we had to pay the electric bill in the business rate. We had to pay water in business rate. I haven't made the money, but yes, I have to pay all these bills. And it was going crazy. And we thought that was bad enough. Until now we then set up finally on a high street. That's what we call it here in the UK, high street. You're on a road that people walk past and so they see you. For that reason, you are in bigger trouble. Because then you start paying the business rate. Then you start paying this. And you start paying. And you start paying. For up the weirdest part, we got this place and we needed to refurbish it, we needed to fix it. It was an empty place for a long period, so it was in a complete state. We had to start everything from scratch. And from the minute we signed the paper for the place, we had to start paying business rate. We had not even done any business, but we were paying business rate. Where was the money coming from? So this is how the system sits on you. And it got to a point we actually thought, are we really sure this is what we want to take on? Now I tell you, I'm a very strong character and I can deal with most things. But it got to a point where I was beginning to wonder, can I cope with this? And this makes me wonder, if I, in my state of mind that I know is strong and can deal with most things, was beginning to struggle. Now, how about people out there who cannot face the most basic things? That's how the system is designed to break you. Because we were at a wit's head at some point where miscommunication between us and the council, we were at the point where they were sending us, whatever you call them, to come and chase us out of where we had paid rent for. And that's how ridiculous they can do things aimed at destroying you. So when you see people surviving and coping to grow, it's down to your own personal strength. And this is where these personal development programs are aimed at supporting you, to give you that strength that you can cope and see through the system. Because this whole program of today is making you see through the system, is to prepare you. Now the weirdest thing again about taxes is, like the society we live in, then they have what they call the welfare state. It's very weird, because you who is really trying so hard to work and support the government through paying these taxes is so harassed for this money that everything you do practically should go back to the government. And the person who decides not to do anything, you know what, I'm not doing anything, is then propped up. I saw a program the other day, and it was an image, and then they showed two fridges. One fridge belonged to the hardworking person, and the other fridge was to this person who is unemployed and is on benefits. And the hardworking person had nothing in his fridge. It was just one bag that contained donuts, and the other fridge had everything you could think of. They had wine, they have amazing vegetable section, they had meat. Why is that? Because the man who's working so hard has to pay so much tax to the government that at the end of the month he has nothing left, while the man who does no job gets so much money from the government that he can afford to buy everything he wants. And my children have experienced this in their schools. They, whose mom is trying so hard to make ends meet and support them, are being told, you have to be careful with how much you spend, you have to be careful. And these people whose parents don't work, they wear the designer shoes, they wear the designer bags, they carry the designer perfumes, and they have the amazing things, all the gadgets you can think of, Xbox 360, you name it, they have it all. My children always ask, Mom, why is that the case? I have no answer, because that's exactly what you find in the system we live in. If you work, you're penalized. If you don't work, you're supported. So that's how the tax system operates here. Number 6, we're nearly there. Remember, we mentioned 7 points, 7 hurdles to overcome. So we've got up to number 6 now. Number 6, what's number 6? Is the bills. Again, the amount of bills you are going to be crippled with is something that practically sits in your way. But you have to be smart about these bills, because if you don't know what you're doing, you may think you've got all your skills intact, you got your business going, and as the money is like a funnel, as the money is coming in, it's flowing right out. It's coming in, it's flowing right out. And that's down to the series and series of bills you have to deal with. We talked about electricity bills, we talked about water bills, we talked about telephone bills, we talk about council rate. They pile up before the money even sets in, it's gone out. And this is why sometimes I get really irritated when we've created videos and DVDs to help you pick up your skills at home, and then people want to argue with me with such little money. because the amount of money we require to run this business in order to come across to you in the form we do is a lot we put in. It doesn't even come into my pocket to the point now, oh yeah, what am I going to buy today? An amazing handbag, designer handbag? No, I'm not that kind of person. So if I have money in that excess, I will invest this in more training, more education, more books, so I can get more knowledge I can share with you. So that's how you need to start thinking. Learn to empower your brain more than throwing all this money out. Unless they're necessities, like the things I mentioned. But again, like I said, you have to be smart about it. So I was reading something somewhere, and someone said, when I was younger, I was so scared of darkness, and I wanted light on in my room all the time. But now that I've grown older, I love darkness. I'm scared of light. Isn't that interesting? Because you want to put light on in every room. My kids are like every room they walked into, light on, and they leave it on and they walk away. When it comes to your bill, you will look at, you'll be like, what happened here? When did I use this amount of electricity? So you start being very, very cautious. Every light you don't need, put it off. Because you're not in every room at all times, so concentrate where you are. And if you live in a society like we do, constantly cold, you will need a heater. You need to heat up your system, because if your body is not heated, you will not be able to walk, you'll not be able to perform. So those are necessities that you're going to have to put on. And then when it comes to things like telephone, if you don't make unnecessary calls, you should not pay too much bills. Before you take on any contract, make sure you're looking at what's involved in it. And I say to people, especially when you want to run a business, do you have enough text to text your clients? Do you have enough calls that you can make calls? If your clients call and you miss the call, you can return the call. Do you have enough data if you have to go on the internet? So do you have enough data on your telephone or your internet access? So it's important that you really read whatever these small prints are to know exactly what you're buying. We had an instance where, because of what we do, you need to be visible. You need people to see your activities, and YouTube is one of them, but obviously there's so many others. We talk about them all the time, the social media. You cannot operate your business hidden away and hoping that people will walk in without knowing that you exist. So you have to send your messages out all the time in various forms. So you're taking images and then you do various things. For instance, the Instagram, the Facebook, the LinkedIn. It's difficult, but sometimes you'll be able to manage all of them. And we found out recently, because the network I was with, every time we kept going back to them, we said we're looking for unlimited data. And then whatever it is, they will tell us some long story and we'll buy, not knowing that we were not getting that. From time to time, I'll get messages, you have exceeded your data limit. And I started wondering what's going on. Until we finally contacted one of them, someone who was in a good mood, and he said, do you have internet access where you're based? And we said, yes. He said, okay, why don't you switch your phone onto your internet access, into your broadband? And that was what saved us, because the amount of money we were paying to have access to data so that we can keep updating you, informing you, letting you know what's going on was ridiculous. And so you need to know what you're doing. So once we now switched off their data and put on our broadband data on my phone, it made life a lot easier. So that's the kind of hurdles you're going to be overcoming, because if you're not wise about these things, you're going to end up being bankrupted, or you're going to end up closing down your business in no time. You're going to end up in a position where you know what you want to do, but you haven't got the financial power to do it. So that's what it is. Understand the system you're working with. Get to look at ways to cut corners, I would say, because if the light is not in use, you're not paying that bill. If you're not making unnecessary calls, you're not making that paying that phone bill. We had issues with water as well. How ridiculous is that? We had to fight with this water company for months. They were transferring bills that had absolutely nothing to do with us onto our bill. And imagine someone asking you to pay £5,000 for water. I was like, where did that come from? We had to go into history, we had to understand what was going on, and it was ridiculous what was going on. Eventually we had to deal and sort it out. But can you imagine having to put £5,000 away just for one bill? So that's how bills can cripple you, and that's how bills can destroy you, and you will not be able to even wake up in the morning to deal with the issues you're planning to deal with. So number 7, we're finally at the end, and now we're gonna wrap it up. Number 7 is what I like to call networking. And networking is the same thing as who do you know? Who do you know is one of the biggest things that can make you or break you. We've talked about all these amazing things that you can do to help yourself. But do you know there are people who don't even know anything? They probably never even went to school. They probably have no skill. And all that happened was they were in the right place at the right time. And what happens? They get amazing contracts from government most times. Or they get companies so interested in them, they go, yes, can you come and supply XYZ to our company? And before you know it, they've done this once, twice, business has boomed. And they buy and sell. And then they carry on that way. And then life is sweet. We all hope to be that one person who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But I just want you to know that networking is another thing that could destroy whatever little dreams you're hoping for. You might be thinking, but I do a better job than that person. Why have they not picked on me? Why have they picked that person? It's not down to you. It's the society we live in. Oh, well, his friend is my friend, and his grandmother is my great-grandmother's friend, and his great-granddad was... I read an article on a young model recently on the cover of Vogue magazine, and they made this big issue about this lady, and they've hyped her up as much as they can. And I was curious enough, so I started reading a bit more, and then further on in the middle of the pages, they had so much information on this lady. There's nobody she doesn't know. She knows up to the royal family. She knows the owner of the magazine, the publishers, her grandmother is. This is how these things happen. She may not be the most beautiful girl. She may not have the most fantastic catwalk ever. But suddenly, boom, front page of magazines. And that's how these things happen. So these are some of the things completely in the system aimed at making sure you don't get anywhere near there. It is a set up plan. You have to find a way to deal with it. And if networking or knowing people is one way you can overcome these problems, go out some more. Attend the best schools so you mingle with them. So you be friends with their daughter or their brother or their sister. And sometimes when people want to show up, they go, I know the great-great-grandfather to that. What has that got to do with anything? But yeah, in our world, it has a lot to do with something. And you get some people, before their kids are even the age of 2, they already know where he's going to walk. That's what they plan. That's planning. So it's down to me and you now to start looking at how we can deal with these issues that are standing right in our faces and are stopping us from growing. So most times, you haven't set yourself deliberately to fail. The system you live in, sit on your way and make sure you're not making any move higher than you can. But like I said, our Creator did not make us in that way. So as usual, I will encourage you to make sure you touch your spiritual side at all times. So you're reading your Bible, you're going to church, but as usual again, don't overdo some of these things. Because some of us, this is one of the biggest problems I find with our people. We read the Bible upside down. We don't read the Bible in the format where it's supposed to help us. If God says He will help those who help themselves, you see some of us who sleep in church. And we don't want to do anything, but we're still hoping on God to help us. God will only help you if you wake up and do what you need to do. And then you pray and say, God, bless the effort I have put in. So you must put in an effort and then ask for Him to bless it. Because He has great plans for you. He's given you 2 hands, given you a brain, given you all the things you need to help you. While we may have all these hurdles standing on our way, with you thinking in the right direction, the right thoughts, the right food inside your body, taking care with all the bills and making sure you take your little action against, making sure it's not ridiculous, dealing with laws that are deliberately standing there to destroy you. All these things, you can overcome them. So I hope I've been able to support and guide you and open your eyes to some of the things you probably are not aware of, or maybe you are aware and did not see some of them the way I have seen them. Again, I'm always here to guide. So as usual, you have any questions, which I've been getting quite a lot, can you come and give me support? Can you mentor me? Can you advise me? I am happy to do all of that. I'm happy to guide people, to support them, to share some of my experiences, because I have a lot. I've lived in the undeveloped countries, and I've lived in this developed country, and I run a business in a developed country. Now, trust me, that is a lot. The fact that I could carry on this long, because they are aiming. I mean, there are some ridiculous statistics that you cannot grow your business more than 3 years without failing. Every day. And it makes you wonder. So that could happen. What are you doing to help people not to fall into that trap or that pit? But nobody's doing anything about it, because it is deliberate that you should fail. So once you can overcome all of that, then you're on the right track. So I hope to be there for you when you contact me. joy@worldofbraiding.com, or you can email me on joyphido@hotmail.com. I'm here to help. And you can follow me on Instagram, Joy Phido. We have World of Braiding as well. On Facebook, World of Braiding, and extensions, World of Braiding, Joy Phido, LinkedIn, Joy Phido. We're practically everywhere, like we said, on the social network, just to communicate and stay in touch with you, to see how we can help and support. So hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.